Okay, thank you so much for meeting me today. I'm really excited to talk with you. I know we've been emailing back and forth.
Yeah,
Um, so are you ready to start the interview?
sure. Yeah.
Okay, hi, my name is Rachel Heisa. It's spelled Hujsa for the transcriber that will hopefully be transcribing this interview. I work for the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program. I'm here with Miss Stephanie Walker. She's a fourth grade teacher at Carolyn Beatrice Parker, correct?
Yes.
And she's amazing. I'm sure we will be talking about her teaching job. Incredible educator. Very excited to speak with her. And usually we like to start with your parents or your grandparents, even if
Okay.
you can start there.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of information about my grandparents. Um, they lived on a little road called Stuckey Loop, and it's in a little town called Stuckey. And my dad always said it's named Stuckey because once you're there, you're stuck. But he did get out. But yeah, my grandfather was actually a sugarcane farmer, and he learned sugarcane from passed down through generation, and he had these hands, and you could tell he was a sugarcane farmer. He had these hands that were so big, and he could barely like pinch the quarter when he would give it to me, because he worked with that sugarcane. And he was the first person in that area he built his own home with his own hands, and he was the first one to have indoor plumbing. So he was the big to do, in his area. So and then my grandmother, and they had several children. And I will tell you, just to share, uh, when my dad was young, my grandmother had some twins, and um, one of them had, I think, whooping cough, and they tried to take them her from hospital to hospital, and because they were black, they got turned away, and she ended up dying. My grandparents had to resuscitate her, and she's mentally disabled, and she lives in a housing program for people who are disabled because of what happened to her. So, and that, she was actually a perfectly normal, like, functioning person, but because she was turned away because she was sick and she
Yeah.
was African American, that's what happened. So, they went through some things. My father ended up, um, you know, progressing and went through high school there and met my mom. So I will say, and I will tell you, I will just keep on talking. So if you want to jump in and say something, let me know. But
Okay, I'll
okay,
do that right now, actually.
yeah,
Could you spell Stuckey
uh,
and what state is this in?
this is in Florida.
Okay,
I'm not sure if it has a C in it, but like STU, it may be CK or it might be KEY,
okay, great.
and it's near the Kissimmee area.
Okay, so by Ocoee, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So your parents met in high school.
Yes. So my mom, she was actually the daughter of someone who the family really won't say whether or not he was part of the KKK or if he was just a sympathizer, but he obviously was not. I mean, if you're looking at me on the video, so he obviously was not too happy when my parents were dating. There were a couple times they were shot at and things like that. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, my dad was a good friend of my mom's sister, and they met. My dad, when he first met her, they were the skating rink, and she had a rip in her pants, and he told her, and she skated away, and he said he's going to marry her one day, and they did. So they were married, and and you can obviously no, obviously it was a tough situation back then, especially my grandfather being who he was. I will say eventually before he passed away, we did visit him once in a while, and before he passed away, he did say that my dad did well by his daughter, so
Okay.
that's really special. Um, so yeah, they married, and they bought a house in Ocoee, and that was in 1978, the fall before I was born. And so when he told his dad, when my dad told his dad that he was moving to Ocoee, he was not happy about it,
Mhm.
because he had heard that that's a sundown town, and you don't go out there. And my dad's like, it's almost the 80s, that's old stuff kind of thing. And so he moved out there anyway. So although we were, we were the ones that reintegrated the town, he didn't do it like really for like to make a stand or make a statement. He found a place where he can get a brand new home for cheap, and we were going to move there, And so, so my grandfather, he wouldn't come out, like he was afraid. And I will say that I know something about speaking about Ocoee's history. I'm trying to kind of put some things together, but Mose Norman, was it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when he left, before he really left, I read somewhere that he actually visited around the Stuckey area. And so that might be why my grandfather kind of was very upset about, not that he lived in during that time, but I'm sure those stories, about what happened to Ocoee were in that area, kind of, piecing it together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I read that. So anyway, yeah. So they ended up in, I know a lot of the, I will say, a lot of the documents and things that you, like the articles that you read about Ocoee, you'll read that the first family was in 1980, and actually it was 1978. So
that was you, yeah.
Yeah. So my family bought a home, and it was 484 Worst Road. So yes, I remember because yesterday. So yeah, we grew up there. My mother actually told me when they were watching the house being built, they would stop by certain days because that's what their schedule permitted. So it was always the same time during the week, same day during the week, same time. And several people started noticing that pattern. And so when it got to the point when they would be out there just kind of watching, watching their house being built, they would get death threats of people by it. And it got so bad that they actually had to call the FBI on it about it. So there was an FBI investigation. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, This is 1978. This is not, the 60s. Some of the stories sound like something that would happen farther back than what it really was. And so, they had the house, and I was born the next year, and raised their children there until 91 when we moved here to Gainesville. Kind of a rough time. My brother and sister don't really remember a lot of the things, I think, because I'm the oldest, so when we moved here, they were still in elementary school, and I was in middle school. But yeah, my mom always tells me different stories and about some things that happened, like when I was in kindergarten, getting ready to go to kindergarten, and I would watch because the school bus let off students right in front of our home. And I was really ready to go to kindergarten. And so, and I would watch them. And then one day they were shouting at me and calling me a zebra. And so I went to my mom and said, what's a zebra? And so I'm actually in the middle, I'm trying to write a book called Lessons I Learned from a Zebra. And so, yeah, and it's talking about the things that I went through in Ocoee and the things that I learned because, and it's like I tell my students here, things are going to happen to you, and it's about how you respond and the lessons you can learn from those things. If you learn nothing, then it's just something bad that happened to you, and it sucked, but if you can learn from it and become a better person from those things, then, it makes it valid in your life, something, I got something from that. So yes, I'm working on that. But yeah, difficult. We would have, we had people spray paint things, on our home, and our mailbox got run over so many times that actually the only time my grandfather actually came to our home was to dig and drop a telephone pole into the ground and put a mailbox on top. And they cemented in, and the next person that wrecked their car, ran our mailbox over. And
wow.
And that was the first time my dad heard his dad tell him he was proud of him that day. So yeah. So but yeah, they would do donuts in our yard and all kinds of stuff until that telephone pole got there.
That's why your story is so important, because when people hear stories like this, they assume, maybe it was the 50s or the 60s when something like this happened, but this was the 80s.
Yeah,
And even beyond too. And I think that's really important for people to know. Wow.
definitely.
Wow. Okay, so here's what we can do. I want
Yeah,
to go back and talk about your parents and your grandparents even.
yeah.
Or would you prefer to move into your education and your job at the school, and then we can move back later? What would you prefer?
Um, we'll talk about family first.
Okay. Um, so your story is fascinating.
Oh,
I'm so glad I got to speak with you. I've been looking forward to this for so long. I'm sorry things kept getting confused in our schedules.
oh, that's fine.
Um, but I wanted to ask about your parents. You say that people would shoot at them?
No, okay, so yeah, no, my grandfather
Your grandfather.
actually shot at them. Yeah. And
Oh my God. Okay.
yes, because and yeah, and so they still won't tell, they still don't talk much about whether or not he was actually in the KKK, but it was that kind of situation. So he was very upset about my father seeing my mother. So it's kind of those, you can't cross the tracks to go see my mom from, the black area of town to the white area of town. So he's seen over there, and my grandfather. I mean, it's also embarrassing for him, because the people he hung around were believe the same type of thing he did. And so, there was a situation to where, yeah, he shot at him. And my grandmother, my dad's mother, actually, and father, actually, my dad would bring my mom over, and they would get upset as well, but not because she was white, but because, like, do you know what's going to happen to us because you're bringing a white woman into our home? you know so it was rough on both sides, but for different reasons.
Definitely. Yeah.
And
I was going to ask, was there any community, I guess, what is the word I'm looking for? Like, did the community lash out against this too, or was it mostly in your family?
Well, actually, I will say they were when they were getting married. They decided not to have it at the church, but that night the church windows did get shut out. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Yeah. And
this was all in Stuckey, right?
Stuckey and so Groveland.
Groveland. Okay.
Groveland, Florida. Yeah.
And that was not that long ago. Anyway, I'm like reeling right now. So you said that your family heard of the Ocoee Massacre and that's why they were so against moving.
So I'm kind of putting it together. So because my dad didn't know about anything that happened, but my grandfather had told him when he found out that my dad was buying that property, he let him know, no, you don't need to go there. Black people do not go to Ocoee. Yeah. And he's like very adamant about that. And so I just kind of put it together. I'm thinking, I wonder if, because I read about the Most Norman thing, maybe that's how he knew. Because if that's where he went, those people would probably talk about it. So that's just kind of a connection I made. But I just know that my grandfather knew that, and Ocoee and they're not really close. So for him to know that town is known for that. And, in reading, I'm sure a lot of towns knew, because they were, at this point I've done some research and have read about the, how they were known for having like the, I think fourth largest KKK or something like that. I'm not sure about the numbers, but I'm sure a lot of people knew that Ocoee was like that. But for my grandfather to say, be very upset about my dad moving there and would not come visit him, so this is just something I wonder if they knew about the Ocoee Massacre. But I will say I didn't know about that. My parents didn't actually know about that, what happened that day, until a couple years ago when I found out.
I see.
Yeah. So I tell my stories. I've been telling my story to my students every year since. So I'll jump back to family in just a minute. But I've been telling them my story every year, and so I tell them how, and so every year they're thinking, oh, she's like a Black history hero, stuff like that, because I say,
you are.
So it's because when we talk about integration, I use my story because I teach, I feel like you have to teach stories. I don't just teach history, I teach stories. And so I teach, stories of people they know, because that's what's going to resonate with them. And so every year I hear from parents like, oh my gosh, my child really wants to know more about Black history because you told them about your life story. And so one year, a couple of years ago, a parent found out about Ocoee and sent it to me, and that's how I found out
Wow.
what happened. So they didn't teach Black history in Ocoee. I didn't know Martin Luther King. I didn't know any of that. And my parents didn't either. And I really don't, I haven't addressed and asked them really about that. I'm sure it's because, you don't want to tell a brown child that you have that, all this stuff happened to African Americans and they moved you to a racist town. I mean, I'm sure that would be a kind of a hard thing to do. They didn't know they were doing that, And so, and like I was saying with the zebra situation, my mom said that was the moment she asked herself, like, what did I do? She just had a child and brought them into this area, this, a world and where these people aren't going to love her, kind of thing.
Well, actually, when you talked about the backlash your family faced for moving to Ocoee, a really similar thing happened in Rosewood, and I can also send you an interview for that. I'm forgetting his name right now, but his wife's name is Maria Reynolds, actually, which is like, I get reminded of Hamilton when I hear that name. But their house was actually burnt down in Rosewood that they were building after, but like you said, several years after the massacre as well. So I think this is probably a trend that your family is sadly a part of. So you said the FBI was contacted.
Yeah, so I don't know a whole bunch about that. My mom just mentioned it to me because she knows that I've been doing some more research. Like once I found out, like, whoa, floodgates are opening here. So, anytime she remembers, she lets me know. And she said, yeah. So the FBI was contacted and there was an investigation there, and, they were doing a lot of things. They didn't find, who or where or what, but eventually that particular situation stopped, but the problem didn't stop. It just manifested in a different way.
So what do you mean it manifested in a different way?
Like, so instead of being people writing by having death threats, now you have people spray painting, and so now you have, instead of the same thing happening every single time with the same car and the same, now you have, this is happening and they're all different. So it could be the same person, but it could be a bunch of other people, and that way it's a little bit more difficult to follow,
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe these things happened in the 80s. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah.
It's really important. I'm sorry. It's hard to like formulate a question when you're hearing these things from someone.
Yeah. And it's really difficult because, and growing up there, I came from a loving home. So, you're told you're loved and you're important and you're special. And then you go to school and you're excited. And that's not, it's not the world that you thought you had. It's not the one you show up in on day one, at school. And I was the only one, kind of thing. Now, my kindergarten teacher was African American. I saw her in that year, and I didn't see her anymore. I don't know where she went, but I always say she's the reason I wanted to become a teacher, because that was the only brown face I saw besides my family. It's like, she's a teacher. That's what I have to be. I have to be a teacher because brown people are teachers, But, other than that, it's like, I was chased home from school with kids with knives and, all kinds of stuff, So, I remember one instance where, now I will say my music teacher really loved Whitney Houston, Stevie Wonder. So I knew kind of those things,
Okay.
Musicians. I knew the Cosbys, but not real people. So, but yeah, so, I would be picked on and called Tina Turner. And I would love to be called Tina Turner now. But back then I just knew whoever Tina Turner is, it's negative. I remember one day it was just so bad that I didn't want to leave my seat. And I ended up having an accident at school. And to this day, I cannot stand corduroys because I had to wet corduroys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Yeah. But you learn from it,
Yeah, so your
and you
book that
move
you're
on.
writing, is that going to be a children's book or is it
Hmm?
going to be, this is just a side question. The book that you're writing, is that going to be a children's book or is it?
No, I'm actually I have a couple I did. That one's the one I have notes on another one that I want to um do, but it's not really it's for children. It's more, bringing in different cultures and different abilities and things like that. And
Okay.
one is with capoeira. My son is in capoeira, and I just love the history behind that, and I love teaching that to my students because there's so much culture. And so when students come into my classroom, first of all, they come in thinking every year slavery was when black people were working for free, and civil rights movement, people couldn't drink from the same water fountain, and Martin Luther King got shot.
Yep.
And they also think that all slaves came to America, and you know, so the capoeira part comes from these slaves are in Brazil, and
Okay.
I teach that history and that, kind of like some of my ancestors might be in Brazil, and so they can kind of see all of that. And so yeah, I have children's book with some of those things in it, but that's more rough.
Okay. So that's also super important. You're an amazing person.
Oh,
You're amazing. So I, being mixed race myself, I'm really interested in these stories that mixed people tell. Not really belonging in one world or the other, that kind of thing. So obviously people were like racist to you because you're black, but do you think there was an element of, I guess, being biracial in that as well? I mean, obviously they said zebra, which is awful, and I can't believe that happened to you. But do you think there was that kind of edge to it as well? And what can you speak to on that?
Yeah, so I mean, and you're saying because the mix kind of over being black.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
having that
so
mixed
I think
family.
that because it was elementary school, I think that was more anytime I saw that would be more inquisitive. Like if your mom's white and your dad's black, why aren't you gray? And does that wash off? And kind of that kind of stuff. More like picking on my hair or whatever um uh to do. But I think that was more like it wasn't about the fact that my mom was white. It was more like we don't like you because you're black. But then they
Okay.
were kind of questioning like, but your mom's white, so what's really going on here? Kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, you have beautiful hair.
Oh, thank you.
I I just can't believe these things happen. So
Yeah.
when you moved to Gainesville, did things change or was it more of the same, you think? Oh no.
So yeah, that's the fun part. That's where the fun begins. So when I got to Gainesville, first of all, my first day of school, I was like, whoa, where did all these black people come from?
Wait, where did you go to school? In
Howard
Gainesville?
Bishop. Howard Bishop.
Harvard Bishop?
Yes, Howard
What is
Bishop.
that? That's
In
a
Northeast
middle
Gainesville.
school.
Middle school.
Middle school. Okay.
Yes.
Howard.
And
Howard?
Howard Bishop.
Okay.
Yeah. And oh my goodness. So funny story.
I'm ready.
Yes. So being from Ocoee, I had a very southern white accent. And I came to Gainesville and all these black people. And I'm like, this is amazing. Look at your hair. I don't know anything about weave. I'm just, oh my God, how can you? This is, I'm just in awe. And I'm just wanting to know everything about everybody here. And I was just, and I then people like me because I'm not black. So
Mm.
the boy, that's when the red bone thing was in, and so and I start wait. So you're telling me you're black, but you don't like her because she's black, but you like me because I'm barely black. But the white people didn't like me because I was black, but so I was just really confused, and here's the funny part. So, but I wanted to be them because who I wasn't enough where, I wasn't accepted where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And they liked, they liked me because I was light brown, but then also I wasn't really black, you know? So, questions like, all the time, which side do you choose? But you have to choose a black. They like me because I'm mixed. They like me because I'm light brown, which means you like me because I'm mixed. But if I don't choose black, then I'm wrong. So it's very, very confusing. And so, but I wanted to be this is who I wanted to be, because I'm obviously not white, because white people won't let me be, they won't let me be that, obviously. That's where I came from. I was chased with knives for that. So that's not going to happen. But I can be you guys. And so I would go home and practice speaking like the people at school. So yes, my dad. So I went. Someone's like one day said to me, "Give me them digits." So I go home to my dad. Dad, what are digits? And I would practice in the mirror at night. Give me them. Give me nope. Give me them. Give me them digits. Like I would just practice at night. And I would. It was so sad. I would practice until I thought I perfected it, but then I would try it at school and it was not perfect. So I had to go home and try again. But yeah, so or someone is that your real hair? I'm like, because I didn't know about weave. What? Why wouldn't it be? Like just and the way I responded to people, they started thinking, what's with her? It's like I didn't understand. Like when they said something about weave, like I thought they said weed. I said, well, why would weeds be in my hair? Is it dirty? Oh like, so I'm that person, So I'm answering the questions obviously wrong, responding in ways that are probably thinking, okay, she's not with it. And then I come, saying or holding really strong R's, and then I come back to school the next day and completely messing the language up. So it was like it was a total flop at being black, like what they expected. So yeah, it worked out like that. But yeah, I eventually, fit in, but not really. But yeah, that was me practicing being black, quotation marks, in the mirror at night.
But did this change in high school, or was that your experience in general?
Yeah, so by high school I had it down. And
Okay.
I joined, I've never actually been like a group person, like part of any group. Like I'll be a part of a group, but not really. Like, yeah, I'm in that club, but I'm not a part of it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and it wasn't the fault of the people who were in the club at all. It was more of, and I know this now, I didn't know this then. It was more me feeling like I am not enough. And I think it comes from when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I do is not going to be enough. So I don't want them to see me fail, because someone's waiting for me to fail, kind of thing, So I did a lot of things. I worked a lot, but would let other people get credit and, kind of that kind of thing. Because no conflict, that unless it got to the point where it was a big thing, and then I kind of Katie kaboomed on him because I've been, holding it in so much. But I joined pre-collegiate. Anything that was black, I was a part of it. So I went to Eastside High School, and we had our class. Our class for some reason was really into Black history, and we started we had some kind of like Black History Day or something like that, and I started this we made the Soul Train. It was like an actual train made of cardboard with like things, and because I'm like really creative, and we got in it and we kind of went around the track and we're like doing our thing and breaking it down with a little train, and so I really try to get involved that way. And I also, because I felt like I didn't fit in, I wanted to make sure I stuck out as not fitting in. So I would do something that was not, I was choosing things that were not expected. Like I got on the weightlifting team, that kind of stuff. So first girl on the weightlifting team, go, So, and that way, if I am sticking out, I'm doing it on purpose, kind of. Yeah. And kind of same thing, it got me in trouble with the boy thing too. Like if I'm going to stick out, like if this is going to happen, it's going to be under my terms. I'm not going to let something happen to me. I'm going to say, and so it got me in trouble with the boys crew and all that kind of stuff. I think it all goes back to Ocoee.
Yeah. Feeling like you stick out there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you stick out, you're not, no matter what you do, it's not going to be enough. And, kind of thing. Like,
so I guess going back to Ocoee, thinking back, so you talk about your grandfather not wanting your parents to move there, and you think how that might be related to the massacre. Is there anything else about growing up in Ocoee that, thinking back now, you might relate to Ocoee's past as well?
Well, I mean, obviously,
other than like the persistent racism.
Other than that, yeah. I'm not really sure how, and they're like, it's mostly like the racism.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, we stuck it out, but like I know that one other lady moved in and she was a single mom with a couple kids, and she was African. She didn't last long. My dad actually had to honk his horn and basically save their life because somebody in the middle of the night had taken all of the lug nuts off her tires. And so she was backing out and about to drive off, and my dad saw the wheels and they were about to come off. So she moved, obviously, I mean, so it's just like a lot of racism. And I feel like, and I look back and I'm like, and I think about the song. I think about the song that we sang, and it makes me so angry. And it was like, I guess a song about Ocoee. And I'm like, you had a African-American girl sing this song.
Oh, don't sing it. Never mind. I thought it was
Huh?
Is it a good song?
No, it sounds good until you think about it was a great song for Ocoee, I guess. But then you think about the racism and you're like, no. And, because it just says, Ocoee, I'm proud to be a part of you, Ocoee. We welcome every man, woman, girl, and boy to a place we all call home, Ocoee. And it has like little, and I'm like, and I'm singing this song, and I grow up like later, once I got here, and this did not take me until I was an adult. This was like, I'm like, you had me singing a song saying I was welcome, and I knew I wasn't welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the stage singing how welcome I was all by myself, with a crowd of, faces of white, and then my little brown face, knowing you didn't welcome me, and I have to sing this. And I just look back and like, it breaks my, like, that's one of the, you would think it would be like being chased home from school or being all of this, but that's the one, that's the main one that I tear up when I think about it. It's like you made me sing something that was not how you felt, and I wasn't welcome.
Well, it's like, the Constitution saying that all men are equal, and
exactly. Sorry for this. That's my emotion.
No, it's totally fine. I totally understand. It's hard to talk about these things, especially when someone is asking you.
Yeah, right.
I'm just so thankful to speak with you. I'm really glad that we have this relationship with you now in SPOP. I'm not even really sure how that happened. All I know, were you part of the renaming committee for this school?
I was, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense. So that's another line of questioning I can ask you about.
Yes. It was the renaming committee. And then during that time, I did mention something about the reason why I put so much into teaching, and it's not just Black history in my classroom. We celebrate everybody. We celebrate, I mean, all of the cultures, when it's Christmas time, it's not Christmas. It's not just Kwanzaa. It's not just, we do Diwali. We do the sun god. We do, we do everything. I mean, if I can find it, we are going to celebrate it. We're going to learn about it, and it's because, especially here at this school, it's because I was a little brown girl sitting in a class where I only ever learned about Caucasian history, white history. Never did I learn anything about any brown person, and that's never going to happen in my classroom, So I was telling them how, but especially with Black history, I really pour myself into it because I feel like we don't give it enough. And and I kind of mentioned a lot of that, I think, and that with the being from Ocoee and being on the renaming committee, but I just feel like if we continue to let kids get all the way, I know some people probably think that's young, but you know what? No, because even one of my students this year said, is this something inappropriate for fourth grade? Because in the book, the girls talks about seeing the scars, and like, no, she just saw scars, but I want you to, I told them, I want you to think you're 10 and there are 5-year-olds witnessing this.
Yep.
You're 10 and all you're doing is hearing about a piece. And if we continue letting, instead of saying it was a horrific event and just saying it was a water fountain and a Martin Luther King who died and a bus.
Yep.
And some free labor, it's going to continue.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mentioned kind of some of those things during the name changing committee. So
no, that makes complete sense. And at SPOC, we're actually working on writing lesson plans, and that's why I thought it would be great to talk to you too, because we're trying to write them about the Ocoee Massacre. And right now we're focusing on high school standards because we feel like it's probably easier to discuss these things with high schoolers, but I think it's important for fourth graders to learn about it as well.
I taught it this year.
You did? Okay. So can we talk about how you did that and sort of how you can connect these horrific events to 10-year-olds and make them understand it in a way that their parents also won't complain about? Because
and so, I will say the way I do things, I speak a lot of stuff that people would probably think they would get in trouble. I've never had a parent complain, so that's good.
Okay.
But but I don't sugarcoat it either. But so the way I did it, I did do a little PowerPoint and I let the kids know, and I approached it like this. I said there was a secret, and you're about to learn about a secret. And I said that this secret was so well hidden that no other elementary school students have heard it yet. And it's in our, it's history, and, kind of like that. And they're like, what? You're going to be the first. And, so I did like that. And and actually, it was almost time to vote. So I actually had my ballot with me that day. And I had, because every year I actually vote since the year I found out. Every year I post on Facebook, I'm voting in memory of Julius Perry every year. And so, and I had a jar on the table, and I said, we're going to vote on something today, but you can only do that if you can tell me how many marbles are in this jar. And, that kind of thing. And they talked about how unfair it was and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that later. We'll do the vote later. But it does have to do with our lesson today. So we're going to have to get to it, though. So you got to decide what you're going to do about that, kind of thing. So that was on the back of their mind. And but I had a little PowerPoint, and it showed me kind of hit on some things like we voted in class before, just, that kind of stuff. How did you feel? Well, what if only these people could vote? And then one slide showed me in front of my house, because a couple years back, I can tell you about that in a minute, but I went back in front of my house to my home, which is really great. But, and, it showed me, I said, this is the home where I grew up. And and this is the sidewalk where I rode my bike, but I wasn't welcome there. And I have this relationship with my students, and because I really feel that's what I'm really known for is community. And every time I tell students about not being welcome somewhere, like half of them are like gasping, and they're what, and so then now I have the visual, and I took it back. It's like I really can't tell you. I can't start this story unless I tell you somebody else's story, And so it was basically the way I told it was a story. And I said, there was this guy, and I told him all about our straw boss. And so I like to have the persona, and I would change. Like, I'll go from being a Southern country belle until, so in an instant. And so I'm walking around and tell you about this straw boss. And I need to get a job, but I know I need to go through Julius Perry today because he's going to see me right, that kind of stuff. And so that's how I got them connected to him. And we talked about Ocoee Massacre. And do you know that he has curtains in his windows and a car? That kind. So kind of getting and I'm walk to each student, whispering to them and telling them all about what's going on in town. And I wanted to connect with them because if you don't connect, it's just another something in a book. Mm-hmm. So they were connected to these people, and they were connected to Julius Perry. But I was never Julius Perry. I was just all the people who respected him, mm-hmm. to put that into them, give them the respect like people give for Martin Luther King. I wanted to know and respect, mm-hmm. and that's how I built into that. And then we got to talking about, we got to the point where Julius is talking about voting, and what do you think about that? And I would ask him, no, I really want you to know, and so they started becoming part of the story. And they would answer, about what they think about them. And there was a part where we're talking about, the white people, and it's the white section of town ain't going to let what do you think we should do? And, and have them be a part of the story. And you could tell they were seeing that something was going to happen, and it was on the slide. The slide was just a little bit here and there. And, it would just have a picture of, someone, and I would tell more about it. And it got to the point where I let them know, Julius Perry woke up this morning earlier than everybody else, and he got to the voting booth and voted. But that Mosey Norman, he didn't do. So and I told them the fighting, and I always make sure that I show that there were white people who helped. Mm-hmm. So I told them about it's every time I find that, because I don't want in telling of Black history for students for my Caucasian white students, for them to think that the only people in their history were the bad people. Mm-hmm. And I don't want in raising my African American students up, I don't want to hold my white students down, And so I pulled in the guy who said, well, let me know who's doing it, and kind of that kind of thing. And so he's standing up, and what we didn't talk about is like hanging and dragging. We talked about how there was shooting involved, and we talked about the houses being caught on fire and things like that, and that Julius Perry didn't make it, and so I didn't tell them the really horrific things, but I got enough. And the reason why I give them just enough, because I don't think it's fair for some of my African American students to know what a hanging tree is, and for none of the other students to know what that is. Yep. So I give just enough to where they're not going to have nightmares, but they are feeling it. Because that's the point. If they didn't care about Julius Perry from the beginning of the story, then saying that the house was about the shooting and about their houses being caught on fire, and Julius Perry did, the next day Julius Perry didn't make it. He died along with so many other people, and having that relationship with him from the story. I really don't have to explain to you how he died. I don't have to explain how horrific it was. I just have to tell you that he did, and it was at the hands of these people, and why. Mm-hmm. And they feel it, And I even brought up I found the newspaper articles, clippings online about, houses for sale. The Black people just left them, and how the newspaper showed it. And we talked about why they would have done that and what the secret was. So do you guys know what the secret is? What was the secret they were trying to hide? Why did I not know? Why do you think that little Miss Walker didn't know Black history?
Yep.
Why do you think in those things, And so we had a discussion of what the newspaper, and they got to write what the newspaper article should have said.
Yep. Wait, okay. You had them rewrite it? Or
not
just
the whole, just the headlines.
Okay.
Headlines.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what should have said, I'm not gonna have them write the whole thing because they can get graphic. They might make it even worse. Yeah, I will have bad parents if I did that. But yeah, they had new headlines, and I even talk about, because at this point they've already learned about like Matthew Louis, so in Black newspapers and all this kind of stuff. And do you see the important about and having our Black newspaper articles now? You see what happens when we don't have that, Yeah. And how it became like that way. And so, we fast forward time and say that when we learn history, I always tell this, when we learn history, if we just walk away unchanged, then nothing changes. But if we can say, this is something I took from this is something I learned, this is something I felt, and say how we're going to use it, then what they went through, that person lives on. But if we don't change anything after hearing their story, they die along, they die along with the story. And then I showed them, and I took my ballot out. I said, this is my ballot, and it was sealed. So I don't have to tell you what's in it, because it's mine, People fought so I can have this. And Julius Perry died so I can have it, And I held it. I said, this is important to me. I told them what my Facebook posts, and we talked about, what I was going to do. I said, I'm going to walk down there. I acted out. And I told them, Ms. Walker's busy. I'm not going to stand in line. I'm going to put it in one of those boxes. But every year I'm going to hold it up, and I said, this is for you, Julius. And I put it in the box. And so the kids asked me this year, they're like, will you please take a picture and bring it to us tomorrow? And so the next day I brought a picture in. And so the way I did it was basically, you have to let them know that in any history, you have to let them know that these are real people. This is not, I'm just not reading about, this is real. This isn't Harry Potter, This is a real person with real events, and I want you to get attached to them before you find out what happened, I want you to get attached. I don't want to say this was this guy and this is what happened. No, they're not going to care. But if I get you attached to him and know who he was, get you attached to his friends, get excited about the new car going through town and the curtains in the windows, and the nice clothes that these Black folks were wearing that the white folks were not happy about. And we even talked about, and I will say, I'll go back a little bit because I did have a slide that talked about KKK, and they asked me what it was. And I had a picture of some people in robes, and I even gotten I even got into their persona and said, and I can't believe, talking about, and they think they're going to vote today. Oh no, honey, and talking about how we have a big KKK membership here in Ocoee, and kind of, and they have the the notes on the board about what's going on and how big the KKK was there, and what they were willing to do. So that's why the part I skipped. That's how they knew something bad was going to start happening. Is because I also had a slide where I kind of jumped in that, and now we're on the other side of the tracks right now, kind of thing. But the kids, they talk about it still, and one of my students,
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
As a child, I know that would have changed my life.
Yeah, one of my students even, so I did a project where they all chose, we learned about a lot of local heroes. We learned about, somebody even did Miss Hilliard Nunn.
Yes.
One of my students even did her. So
wow.
Yeah. but one of my students said he wanted to do July Perry, and I told him, like, there's nothing that day I had an Asian American kid in a classroom with white children and a child from Bangladesh. I have African American children. I have a child who's French, and I have all kinds, and this child in a classroom with all of these different kinds of people chose July Perry, and he wanted to write about him, and he wanted to learn more, and he wanted to make his project and draw him, and that's what I should have been doing. That was my town's history.
Yep.
And I didn't even know the Martin Luther King part. And so my heart was stuck. Like that day, I went home and I wept. I changed something.
That kid is never going to forget his name.
Yeah. Never. And now he lives on, and I mean, if I stop teaching tomorrow, I did it, Yeah. I can say I'm proud. So anyway, that was that.
Well, I was thinking about it. I really love how you teach, because for two reasons. When I was in school, in newspapers, white folks would say, this man was lynched because he assaulted a white woman. Mm-hmm. That's not even true ever. And that's how I was taught. No one said, oh, it's actually not true. It was because they tried to vote, as you are teaching. It's not because they built up generational wealth and white people got mad. They just took racist white people's word for it.
Yes.
And that's the first thing that I love that you're doing. I love that you're making sure children know it wasn't because of this farce. It was because Black people had the audacity to succeed and to prosper. So that's the first thing I love. The second thing I love is that, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional too now. When we're taught about racial terror, the only thing we see is their bodies. It's the same thing with Holocaust history. I'm Jewish, so I think of that too. We're shown just piles and piles of corpses, and it's just so dehumanizing.
Yes.
And I'm really happy that instead of doing that and saying, obviously it is really impactful to see, someone who was murdered. Obviously you're never going to forget that either. But I think it's so, so wonderful that you're talking about them as people and not just the body they left behind.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful that these kids have this experience. Because I didn't. Even I took a race and racism class in college, and we have pictures of July Perry alive. We have his face, and he's smiling in the picture, and we never got to see that. We saw some other man in a tree, and it's just such a disservice to these people that were living, and that's so important. So thank you for that. You're amazing. I really wish I could have had a teacher like you.
Oh, thank you.
Especially even as a Jewish person, I know that we teach Holocaust history in a way that really shocks people. We don't humanize the victims of the Holocaust in the way that we should, and we definitely do it even less for lynching victims.
Yeah.
So, wow. I'm just very emotional too now. You're amazing. You're just,
thank you.
I can't get over it. So I'm sorry. I'm just thinking right now. So the way you teach, you said earlier that it was really informed by your childhood. Do you see an impact on your students that you would have wanted? I mean, you obviously said that already, but just as you're building a community with these students, is that the impact you wanted to make because of your childhood, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask?
Yes.
Very long-windedly.
Yes. I think I can tie everything that I'm doing back to Ocoee. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's not just how I teach. It's also how I address a lot of our African-American girls who start puberty very early, and how I how I respond to them because of how I was responded to. You know, everything I'm doing. It's not just it's how I speak to them, it's all goes back to what I think should have happened in Ocoee that didn't. And if I can be somebody's Miss King to where, you know what, Miss King was my kindergarten teacher.
Okay, yeah.
And I can, I just want them to be able to say, this was a year that I remember. Mm-hmm. And I didn't just learn. My students, if you ask them right now, any of them, what is Miss Walker's most important subject? It will have nothing to do with reading, writing, language, like social studies, science, math. Because I tell them that if you can learn it this year, you can learn it next year, and you'll eventually learn it. And we will talk about it. But you're going to learn how to respect yourself and respect others and know your worth and know the worth of others and, their culture because I didn't have that, mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, and think about it, it was not just Black history. I was younger, but I don't remember learning about I don't remember anything about Hanukkah or any of that. None of that. I just remember being taught, just like the white story.
Mm-hmm. Or the founding fathers.
Our founding fathers story. Yeah, all of them. I'm not very politically correct sometimes, so.
You shouldn't be. That's okay.
I try, but yeah. So everything comes from there. Everything I do in the classroom, because I just don't, I don't want there to be another me staying in the classroom, where they leave knowing nothing of who they are and where they come from.
Yeah. So you talk about how your childhood impacts how you teach your classes. How does it impact how you raise your children? You have a son, right? You said?
I actually have, I have 2 sons and a daughter. I have, my oldest is 21, and then I have one that's 20. And
you said your oldest is, okay, you look like 22. So
you are my best friend.
I'm looking at you. I didn't know how old.
Can we have coffee sometime?
I'm actually not in Gainesville anymore, but I would have loved to.
42.
You look so young. Yeah, when you said you moved in 1978, I was like doing the math, and I was like, wait.
Wait a minute.
Wait. Okay, so your oldest is 21. Oh my god, I'm 21.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Okay, so your oldest is 21, and then you have 2 more.
Yes, my daughter is 20, and my youngest son is 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the way I raise, and it has to do with not only the school but my church and everything. We went to a white church, and it's just now there we did have some friends who were Puerto Rican, but they were very rich Puerto Ricans. So it's not the same. But yeah, my kids, so I'm the parent that we're very open. We speak our feelings. We talk about other cultures. We like to laugh. So we laugh, and we find the fun in it. And when we see like something about some race, it's like, really, and we kind of make a joke like, this is what they think, and and make a joke about it, even though it's serious, but so that we can see it's ridiculous, kind of thing. And I teach my kids that we love regardless. We forgive regardless. And my family's been through a lot. We've been through a lot. There was one point in time where I was homeless, and now I bought my own home by myself, kind of thing. So, so we've been through, a lot. And a lot of people who know my story, they're like, how does so much stuff happen to one person, kind of thing. And whatever happens, you know, and, you know, my kids do suffer from depression, from a lot of things that happen to us. But that's like the clinical thing, but you don't see us together, never, not smiling, not laughing, and it's because we know how to forgive. You know, whatever people do, and that's what I teach my kids. When someone does something that affects your life, right? Like Ocoee affected my life. Mm-hmm. That was their choice. They did that. I just so happened to be a person who had, you know, who suffered from their choices, but I let that go. I forgive it. I let it go. That's not something I need to hold on to. That's something they need to work out. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's how I you know, taught my kids, you forgive everything. It doesn't mean that you need to, they need to be part of your life, but we forgive, and we forgive everything. And I have forgiven some things that some people have said, no, that person should die, you know, kind of thing. And no, we forgive, and, you know, and we live our lives, and we love regardless. You know, my kids have always had friends from all different colors. I mean, all different backgrounds, all different everything. And like my son, when they learn from things, especially my youngest, like we had a menorah for several years in our home, and we celebrated because he loved it, you know. And I'm sure I didn't do it right, but I did it as close as I could.
We don't do it right either.
And I did as close as I could. And you know, it's just that he just loved it. It's but you know, and it's even with my religion, you know, I don't push, because I don't feel like I don't know everything. And I think all have been, you know, there's been these, you know, books that everybody reads, but they've all been touched by human hands. And let's just get the part that really resonates with us, and whatever is going to make us be better humans here, you know. And because there's so much that has happened, and if I teach a certain way, if I say you can pray for something and something's going to happen, and it doesn't, you know. And if you like some of the things that we've been through, it's like, you know, I can't tell them that. And so I just, you know, whatever you have that part of the religion or whatever that you have that makes you feel valid and feel like this is my plan. I live here. I'm needed here. You know, whatever it is I'm doing wouldn't be done without me being here. And, you know, and so I was just, and because I think it comes from, like, when I was at home in Ocoee, that's how I felt. But at school, I didn't feel like that. And that's where children spend most of their time, is in school, not at home. Mm-hmm. I sleep at home and I eat dinner at home, and we have like 2 hours. I have 6 to 7 hours with these people who don't care to know who I am.
Yeah.
And so I made sure that when my kids left and went to school, you know, they had so much in them that even if they had an Ocoee situation, that they had so much, I had deposited so much in them that that someone else could not make that many withdrawals, you know, and leave that big of a lasting effect. And, you know, there have been some things that have happened where, you know, it wasn't enough with my kids. But, you know, if I didn't put that in them, it would have turned out even worse, you know. Yeah. So I just raised them, you know, to love everyone and to accept, you know, because you don't know their story. You don't know what's happening. Accept who they are, you know? So, and that goes with everything, with your sexuality, with your culture, with your religion, with whatever, you know, and to want to learn more about it. And that's the one thing. It's not just like, I accept you for who you are. It's not that. It's, tell me more about it. Like, you know, I have my neighbors, very Christian. I just found, you know, we just kind of started talking. I'm like, tell me more. What do you have? What do you, like, share with me, you know? And by the end, she's lending me the clothing so I can wear it to school, you know? And that's how my kids are, you know? And it's because I want you to appreciate who you are, but I want you to appreciate who other people are, you know? And I don't know if I answered that question.
You did.
Can you obviously feel strongly about it?
Yeah. So your kids, what do they do? What do they want to do?
Finding themselves right now.
Yeah. Early 20s.
Yeah. My daughter is taking some medical coding classes, and my son is doing he does ballet.
Okay. Oh, where?
valet for Shands.
I used to work at Opus. What's your son's name?
Herbert Lee.
I wonder if I know him.
Okay, listen, if you've met Herbert, Herbert is unapologetically Herbert. And and if you ever do see him, you're like, that must be Herbert.
No, we used to give the valet free coffee like all the time because they also have to deal with customers and people.
My daughter used to work there too. Her name is Heaven.
Heaven? Okay.
Heaven. Like, you go to Heaven?
Yeah, that's an awesome name. Okay, I wonder if I know them.
Yeah.
I closed. So if they were there in the morning, I probably didn't know.
No, they're not morning people. My son actually works overnight now, but my daughter was evening before she actually she's taking classes and she works at ODB right now because she loves kids like I do.
Okay. Well, I might know them. I'll have to.
Yeah.
I wonder what. I don't know their names, but there were two valet. Would they hang out?
Yeah, with each other.
Yeah, because there were two people that would come, and they would both order a caramel foray, like a caramel fake. And I wonder if that was them.
I don't know.
Because it was always during the closing shift too.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
It might be. I don't know.
Okay, I'm excited now. I might have
if you see a guy you're thinking he doesn't care about what the new trend is, obviously he has his own. Adorable. Like, unapologetically whoever he is, that's him.
Okay.
That's what I love about him. Like, there's not another person. And that's another thing I taught my kids. Like, I wouldn't, if there was something they asked me for and I've already seen 15 commercials for it, we're not getting that, because we don't get things, we don't do things because other people do them.
Good.
You know, like if there's some like a popular TV show out, I'm not watching it right now. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon. I'll watch it later. I just don't feel like having all the conversations about it because.
Oh, true. That's so true.
You know, but they're like that. Like my youngest son he won't wear anything that has a name brand on it. He says, I don't want to be a billboard mom.
Wait, so where does he go to school? Is he at Eastside?
No, my youngest, he's going to start 9th grade next year because he's.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's in because we're in High Springs, but he just applied to the fire EMS at Lofton.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
cool. Okay.
Yeah. So.
They're not going to carry on the torch at Eastside though.
I know. Nobody went to Eastside.
Where did your other two go?
My oldest went to Lofton as well, which I think Lofton is great for the two of them because they need small.
Okay.
They don't need big. And then my daughter dual enrolled.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Eastside is a pretty big school.
Yeah. Yeah. My youngest actually just had an accident after Capoeira.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah. And so the guy who worked, we were telling him, because we tell our life story to everybody, because maybe you can learn from it, or maybe you need some advice, maybe I need some of your advice. You know? But anyway, the guy who was working EMS was actually in charge of the fire and EMS thing at Lofton. Like,
okay.
He did a lot to get the ends. Didn't have to break the FEMA for it.
Okay, so I have more questions. I don't know how much time you have, but I have 2 more things I want to talk about, and then more than that if you have more time.
Yeah.
So which one should I start with? Okay, I want to ask you about the renaming committee.
Yeah.
Because I know this used to be JJ Finley, who was a Confederate person.
Yeah.
Just bad in general. And then now it is Carolyn Beaches Parker, who was like a physicist.
Yes.
That worked for NASA. No, NASA? No.
She worked on the
project.
Yeah.
Okay. So I heard from Dr. Ortiz that there was pushback against the name change, but I wanted to hear, which was basically people being really rude about it. But I wanted to hear from a teacher that actually teaches at the school what your thoughts are on the renaming process.
Yeah. So when I first came here, like in reality, people don't really ask who the buildings are named after. I mean, I didn't ask. I didn't. There were some pictures, like there was like one little picture of this guy's face, and that was it. So I didn't know until until a while later, and I found out. I was like, okay, well, and how I approached that was, I really didn't teach about the guy. I taught family. We are Finley family kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, even once I found out, it kind of went there, kind of thing. But when it was brought up, and this was before this year. This was brought up back then, like a couple of years ago when I heard about it. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Like squirrel. No. Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, because someone said, yeah, somebody talking about doing that. And actually, it was Kim Gregg, who was also on the name change committee here. And she told me a couple of years ago about that. I was like, oh, that would be cool. And we were like, yeah, this is awesome. We can just, our minds were going everywhere. We had Native Americans, and we had different tribes, and we had African American people, which, we were running with it. And then we never heard anything else about it. And we heard about it again, and nothing ever happened. So when this third time, I'm like, yeah, right, kind of thing. Don't tell me this again. I was actually excited about it. I'm sure there were some teachers who weren't. I don't know who, but the ones that because I don't know everybody. I'm not that I waved everybody, kind of thing, but I don't, get to know and questions and things like that with everybody. But everybody that I know was like really excited about it. And so when I heard that like some of the community members were like, oh, why not? So, I just figured it's a thing that we should do, because we have all these people, and when the kids do find out, you guys are right. They're, and then I found out that a long time ago they had the parades for him and stuff. I'm like, wait, what? I didn't know any of this. So, but as far as teachers, we were very excited. We were like telling each other, yeah, what's going to happen, and we're all coming up with names and what's going to, kind of thing. So, but we did have a lot of pushback from community, and which was a little shocking. But yeah, I forgot the question again.
Oh, I just wanted to know your experience on the renaming community as a teacher in the school.
Yeah. I will say it was a pandemic, but I talked to my students at that time online about it, and they were so excited. And I let them know, call your information. This is time, and I used it like, guys, we always talk about when are we going to be able to step up and be a part of a process, and this is it, and, kind of thing. And so I made them a part of it. Being on the committee, that was very difficult, because you had a lot of minds, and different people come with their own, everybody has, no matter what you do in life, you have an agenda, so whatever it is, even getting your coffee is, so, and working with a lot of minds, I'm not used to a lot of that, but so yeah, it was a difficult process. And, I did have, see where, some parents and things would say, why are you doing that? And this is ridiculous. And I did hear people in the community, at Publix, talking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh. I hope they didn't see me on the video. I don't want to talk.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to have to explain why you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. So there was that part. It was more community to me that had pushback and stuff like that than anything. I mean, here at the school is more either they didn't care or they were for it. It was nobody was like, we shouldn't do it. Oh, I don't, not any of that. No, there were people whatever, So
yeah, I know Dr. Hilliard Nunn was also on that committee.
Yes. And that's I told the students about that, and when we learned about her, and there's a video that she has that talks about a lot of the different people and the history. I did stop at one part because I didn't want to give nightmares. I had the actual picture of the scars on the back, but that was like the very end. So basically, the kids got to see all of it, and I showed it to them before telling them, and I told them, this is the person that such and such is doing her research on right now, and I said, here's the cool part, like she was on our name change committee. She thought, and I let them know, it's like, it has to be important. Like this is one of the last things,
Yeah.
and her last thing was put for you guys, we have to honor that. I said, if you're going to do, I told the student who chose her, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to do it well if you're going to do it, kind of thing. So they were really excited because I told them about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Hilliard Nunn was amazing.
Yeah.
She's buried with the victims of the Newberry lynchings.
I had a student who went to all of those. Yeah.
It just shows how involved she was in this community.
Yes.
She's an amazing person. We were making social media posts about her. I guess we should have asked you too, but we were asking for reflections about who she was as a person, how she impacted people. So if your student is okay with sharing their project with me so I can post about it, that'd be really cool.
I sent them home, but I can ask, I know our mom, I can ask if they still, because I don't know what happens to all our projects when they go home. But
yeah, that's true. No, that's really.
But this one, I think this one, they probably still have it. So okay. I can ask about that definitely. Yeah. And I don't know what I was going to say. So yeah, I was watching a couple of those actually, because I always like to get stuff that might not be in their article. So the kids, I can give them something. Hey, did you know this while they're reading? So I did watch a couple of those videos, and I actually, one of the people, Angela Wright, who did a video on her about knowing her. She was the parent of. She lived 2 doors down from us, and because when we moved to. And that's another thing. When we moved to Gainesville, we moved to Village Green Apartments, and we went from owning a home to living in a project neighborhood, and it was not whoa. But she lived 2 doors down from us, and I played with her kids like, wait, that's Miss Angela.
Aww.
Small world.
Small world, definitely.
So cool, yeah. But I will definitely talk. So if you want me to reach out to that family, I could definitely do it.
Yeah, that would be really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love Dr. Hilliard Nunn at UF. Did you go to UF, by the way?
No, I went to St. Leo because I do and I share this with my students because I know that I have my things, but because I have severe ADHD and impulsivity, I tend to need smaller situations because I get really distracted. So obviously, can you tell?
I can't. This has been amazing. I can't believe we haven't interviewed you before, actually. Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind speaking about your education, having ADHD, just anything you could share about that would be.
Yeah, so I didn't even know until 2 years ago, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because I've always had a hard time just focusing on things, and I was that student who I would put my head down and be in my own world. But if I was called on, I can answer the question. It's I was kind of paying attention, but not really, because I was up here. And I'm still and that's, I have even medicated, my mind's creative. I'm always and I think to me, I don't look at it as a disability. I think it gives me something. My best plans come when I'm not really prepared. And I'm like, wait a minute, what if we did this? And it turns out to be my best lesson ever, and I feel like it's not a disability. It's something that it's what it made me who I am.
Yeah.
So, but keeping up with homeworks and things like that. I still was a B student, but I worked for it, because the organizational skills, no, I make lists. I don't even know where the list is, like, kind of thing. And it just got really bad. By my third year teaching, I'm like, I can't find anything. I, everybody's like, you're so awesome. I'm like, yeah. Not if you really knew.
That's just the imposter syndrome talking.
If you find my lesson plan, that'd be great.
No, you shouldn't sell yourself short, honestly.
Yeah, they thought it was like they put my all kinds of stuff, and then finally I was like, but both my boys had ADHD. I didn't think it was mine. And they decided, well, let's test you for it. And they actually put the little thing on my head and had me working on something and a thing watching me. My boys, they just sent something to their teacher. They filled it out and they told me my kids had ADHD. I'm what? This, like they went the whole nine.
Yeah.
They did a printout and my thing looked like a swirly all over the place. They're like, yeah, this is serious, huh?
Yeah, you
impulsivity high, like a child drew whatever that thing was.
Yeah, so you talk about making the classroom inclusive for students of all cultures, religions, and ethnicities. And you also earlier said ability.
Yeah.
How do you make your classroom more equitable for students with disabilities or different abilities?
Yeah, so I mean, before this year, I actually because I didn't want to do BA, so I was not going to be on camera, so I didn't do it this year. But
okay.
Prior 2 years, I actually was the ESE push-in teacher. So they would put ESE students in my class along with your regular educational students, and then the ESE teacher would push in during certain times of day. And so, but she was there all the time, and I think I like working with students who have different abilities, because I know, like I know, but and the way I do it, like even my small groups, they can't tell if you're a butterfly or a bumblebee group, because I have some days where we're same, heterogeneous, and some days we're homogeneous, and some days we're this, and some days we're that. And sometimes they're learning from each other. So my higher kids can actually learn more by teaching some of my kids who are struggling. And my kids who are struggling maybe they need to hear it a different way. And I also give accommodations to everybody. Because my thing is, maybe we haven't diagnosed yet. Maybe you don't have a diagnosis yet. Maybe today just wasn't a day for you. Maybe, and it's not just ability, your background. You might have heard people fighting at home all night long last night, and there's no way you're going to finish a test in 30 minutes. So to me, it's teaching each child where they are. And if you can teach each child where they are, I mean, to me, that's the ability. It's because it's not just, to me, it's not just about disability. It's everybody has different abilities, and where I'm strong is this one. And I can use where you're strong, and you might not be strong in ELA, and you might even be in ESE for ELA, but you might be strong in some other where I can pull from that. So it's more like teaching to your ability and teaching you where you are, and pulling the things that you know about, and then also giving you so much background that you can pull from. So I do a lot of so it's not just books. I don't do a lot of books. Actually, just let's open a science book. No. We're not going to do that. I want you to read something you enjoy, so you enjoy reading. And then when it gets to something like science, where some of the reading might be more boring, or only the words and things like that, but I want you to experience it, show me and tell me, and let me share this with you. And that way, some students who maybe your disability might not be like something educational, but it might be not disability, but your background, your social and economic status, things like that might be something you're holding you back. And those students, you can't answer this question because, you don't have any background. You have kids in the classroom who have been to France and go on horseback rides. And I've been to the beach with the same kid who has never seen the beach, And so I try to bring as many, so it's all of it, bringing so many experiences to them that it's going to help, whether you have a disability, whether your lights were off last night, or if you have a lot of privilege, but you don't know, some of
Yeah.
your basic, social things, or everybody, and so, like for science, we have a garden, and we have, oh my gosh, if you would see the classroom, we have three cocoon, no, hornworms, we have chicks right now. There's the garden outside. Today we tasted a banana pepper that was the hot one, and we found out that the seeds make it hotter. Not, and you have to experience. You have to have these experiences, and these experiences is what's reading the science book is not going to help you pass the science test.
Yep.
I mean, it might help you answer some of the questions because it was right there in the book, but you don't understand it. And I want them to understand. Leave here understanding the world, not, knowing what that book says. And so I think teaching that way, you're meeting everybody's needs.
Yeah.
So
I wish we all had a teacher like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always tell guys, I'm going to have fun today. I don't know if you're going to join me, but I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have fun. Like I'm always singing, really bad. This is why I say outside. I can't sing, but I will.
Everyone can sing. So this is kind of an anecdote from my own life, but it's going to lead to a question, I promise. My brother is on the spectrum, and in Asian American communities, I'm half Chinese, half white Jewish. But since my mom is the Asian one and she's in control of our education, we never talked about this or diagnosed my brother's being on the spectrum until he was graduated from college. And obviously, our race has an impact on his mental health and our knowledge of his disability. Would you say that you had an experience like this as well? Or, getting your ADHD diagnosed, or was it maybe a temporal thing that made it take so long? Or, do you have any intersections, I guess, in your own life between race and disability?
I just know we didn't do a lot of going to the doctor growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I know that my parents. So that's probably why I was never diagnosed with anything. Okay. And then I also didn't have teachers in Ocoee that were gonna say, "Oh, I see this in your student." That wasn't gonna happen either. So, but my dad was, a very proud person. We were actually we were poor. So it is what it is. We had pot pies because they were a quarter a piece. But he was a very proud person. We didn't have any kind of like Medicaid and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't visit doctors, and mine probably is like a socioeconomic kind of thing because so, and that it is what it is. So I mean, I don't know, like with my dad, he's got a lot of ailments, or at this point he's homebound now, and I feel that it's just, these are things I feel. I could be wrong, but he had never went to the doctor until something was really, really, really wrong. And I'm like, I wouldn't either. Look what happened to his sister.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. That's true.
I mean, so not a lot of, of that going on. So, and even with my own kids, I have to push myself to remember, oh wait, we need to do dentist things, because we do dentist things. So I mean, it gets done, but I have to really fight that because it's not something that's normal for my family, like going to the doctor, going to the dentist, and doing, adulty things.
Yeah, and you're right. That does really trace back to Jim Crow and how Black people were treated in the South, but also in the whole country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have, oh my gosh, I have a student on the spectrum that oh my gosh, simply love. And I think every year they send me students on purpose because they know, oh yeah, the other teachers might not appreciate this one, but Walker's gonna really appreciate this.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, it makes you who you are. It's not a disability. It's part of
Yeah.
the person.
Yes.
Yeah. I really wish we all had a teacher that would be as understanding. I remember growing up when my brother couldn't communicate with his teachers in the way that normal students could. He would just get in trouble and he would fail classes, and that's all that would happen. And my mom didn't understand either. So
yeah,
I'm glad things are changing, but
yes,
yeah, it's interesting that it can come from like a cultural standpoint, but also a socioeconomic one. Just this idea of not really understanding the different way people think.
yeah.
Um,
And also, I would think, I mean, considering talking about your brother's situation, just the fact that a lot of people, and I don't like it, but how they expect a certain level from Asian American community.
oh yeah.
You know, and like I have an Asian American student this year, and I just feel like, the stress that sometimes students feel, and like I was letting them know, like, uh, it's a test.
It's like one blip in your life.
You don't have to be good at math.
I wish I heard that growing up. Yeah, it's like I would assume
love people. I mean, but his heart is like, I can't.
Yeah, there are these cultural expectations that students of color feel like they have to fit into.
Mm-hmm.
When I wasn't good at math. I'm still not good at math.
Yeah. And I feel like it's not just like certain Asian students are made to feel by society they need to be good at math, but our African American girls are made to feel like they're supposed to be misbehave at school.
Yep.
And so you have your Asian student who is stressed because that is not your gifting, work in your gifting, just get through math if it's not get through ELA if it's not your thing, but your thing is science, focus on it, pull out the things, and then you have these other girls, you wouldn't have been behaving like that if we didn't expect you to.
Yep.
And then we put them in trouble.
Yeah, and then the cycle just continues.
So these guys are stressed out, these guys are here, they're misbehaving, but they don't want to.
Yeah, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway.
And growing up, not a lot of teachers would talk about that with me or even think about it, I bet.
That's so sad.
Yeah, just how it is in Florida, in the South.
Right, Florida.
We are not known for the best legislation. Education legislation, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I will say it again, I really wish I had a teacher like you growing up.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Not that I had bad teachers or anything, but you just seem pretty awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, absolutely. So I have one other thing under Ask Later in my notes. Okay. And that was your visiting your old house in Ocoee. And the picture.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it was my birthday. I went, the person I was at the time was like, we went to medieval times because I love medieval times.
I love medieval times.
Yeah, there's my commercial. And we do commercial breaks in my classroom. So, there's my commercial. And so on the way, he's like, there's a Ocoee exit. I'm like, okay. He's like, let's stop by your house. I'm like, why would I want to do that? And he got off the exit. And he's like, what's the address? And I told him the address. Okay, this is what you want to do. And he put it in, and we arrived in town. I'm like, where do all these brown people come from? Like, what is going on? This is Twilight Zone. What is happening here? I promise you, this is not what it looked like when I was here. I was not lying to you, and we pull up, and there used to be a church across the street, and we pull up into that area, And I'm looking from across the street at my house. You know, they've stuccoed it, and the tree my dad planted is in the back, and it's humongous. And he planted a sapling, and the hedges are still there that he put up to, you know, protect our privacy. You know, they're still there, and they're humongous, just like he liked. And choked up a little bit. But, and I'm like, take a picture of me in front, you know, in front of the house. And so I get on the, you know, the sidewalk, and I take that picture. I share it with the students. And he said, well, go ask them, you know, he's like, well, why don't you go ask them if you can take a picture, you know, in front of the door. I'm like, I'm not knocking, because I was, even though I just saw some brown people here, it's not the same place, but my heart said, this is the same place. I'm about to knock on the door of these people. And I mean, what if it's the guy who chased me home from school with a knife? You know, what if it's his wife? Like, what? And I knocked, and the lady answered. I didn't know what to say. You know, she's like, I'm like, yeah. So I grew up here, and you know, I said, my parents had this home built, and I was just wondering if I could take a picture on the doorstep, you know. And she's like, wait, you're the first family? I'm like, yeah. She's like, my family bought the home from your family, and you know, I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, we heard. And she started telling me the stories of my life. And I'm like, she's like, is this true? Da, da, da. Is this true? Da, da, da. I'm like, yes. Is it true people spray painted on your house? I'm like, yes. Is it true that I'm like, yes. But then she's like, is it true that they burn crosses? I'm like, I've heard that, but I'm not sure. I can't promise. You know? But because someone said they remember that story, and my mom's like, I don't know if did I pluck it out, because I've heard that story from a couple other people. Like, I don't know.
It's something you'd remember, yeah.
Yeah, but my mom doesn't remember a lot.
Yeah.
Don't type that. Whoever's typing, don't type that. No. So anyway, yeah, I don't think that one happened. But I was telling her, you know, I don't think about that. But the other ones, I'm like, I lived this. Like, how does she knows my life? So apparently people were telling the story. Like, when she bought the house, people told her stories of the people who lived here. I'm like, who told you this? Was it the people who were doing it? Like, how did they know? Like, I just, so many questions. But she invited me in the house, and I went to my bedroom, you know, and I was able, I'm going to get teary-eyed. I was able to look out the window that I was looking out when the kids called me a zebra, you know? And I'm like, this is my house. And it looks so small. You know, when I was little, it was so big, and it looks so small. And they had done, you know, they put an extra bathroom, and they had, you know, a bunch of things, and looked, you know, newer, but it was my house. It was the layout. It was my bedroom. And I got to go in. It was just crazy. So, and all the way out, I saw more brown people. So, yeah. And I got emotional again. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's emotional.
Yeah.
Story. I'm so glad you got to go back and things were better.
That was awesome.
Oh, well, I have really, really enjoyed speaking with you. Actually, I have one more thing to tell you.
Okay.
This might be something you want to share with your kids. So, have you heard of Oscar Mack? Mm-hmm. So, this was part of the Ocoee Massacre, the same group that, you know, precipitated that tragedy. Went to Kissimmee, and they attempted to lynch a man. I forgot. I think his name was Oscar. Did you change it? Anyway, they attempted to lynch a man, but he ended up living, and he escaped up north to Georgia, which isn't far up north, but he went to Georgia and had a full life after surviving this attempt on his life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his name was Oscar Mack. And I was wondering if you knew about that, because, you know, that's a story of successful resistance to racial terror.
Oh, I'm gonna look that up. Yeah. And there, you know, the more I talk about, you know, my story, I hear stories from other people. I'm like, what? This is crazy. You know, even there's a lady downstairs, and I'm going to look, I just wrote this name down of Oscar Mack. I'm going to look that up, because I love stories, you know? And the lady that works in our front office, she was telling me how the land her parents purchased, and I would have to ask her again what the names of these people were, was purchased from an African American couple who were, doing some pre-civil rights type stuff, and they ended up burning their home, and they passed away. But they bought the property, and that burnt area stayed there. But they had the bricks. I don't know if they knew what all happened when they bought the property, because this is way, 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 way later.
Mhm.
But there was a burnt house on the property, but the chimney stayed, the fireplace. So it was like, well, these are really good bricks, and they used the bricks in their home they built, in their, with their chimney. And some researchers came and they found out what had happened there, and now they donated that land back. But they have bricks from, and I can't remember, it's like, you can look it up and everything. I can't remember what the names of these people are, but they have the bricks from their home, in their house, part of their home. I'm like, and this is a white family,
Yeah.
and I just think it's amazing the things that you find out. It's like, there are so many stories to be told. There's so many stories to be told, and I want to know all of them.
Well, that's our goal at the program. Tell as many stories as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful that we got your story, just a snippet of it. I feel like this could have gone on for like hours and hours.
Right, because I can do that.
I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah, no, I'm playing with you. That's my thing. I keep people way longer than they originally planned.
That's good. That's good though. You just have so much to say. I wish I knew your kids, because I feel like I definitely have made them a frappe at some point.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some social media sleeping. It was so nice to meet you, Ms. Walker.
You as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop recording. So
Okay.
we can chat a little bit. Thank you for transcribing whoever's transcribing. I'm gonna stop it now.